Hello and welcome to the Pioneer Softball Show with head coach Julie Huebner. How you doing this morning, coach?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
So, coming off of last week versus Newberry getting a win and then dropping some to Mars Hill, seeing as there's not much parity in the SAC conference, y'all weren't very frustrated by those games, were you?
I mean, we were disappointed that we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, but I've been saying it all year. If you look at the standings right now, I mean, it's crazy.
It's really tight.
Yeah, so I think everyone's still in the conversation, but again, you've got to win the games that are presented to you. But last week after those two tough losses, we did take a mental day and just kind of sit down and talk through some things, did a motivational video, took some notes, and just kind of tried to refocus their mindsets and get them back on track. And I think that did pay dividends into a good practice on Friday, and then obviously two good games with Wingate.
Definitely. Wingate swept Wingate, the first sweep over a ranked opponent in Division II since 2011, which is also against Wingate. And we just came out and just hit the ball.
We did. And we scored when we needed to. But I think the good thing is we set a tone early, scored 2 runs in the first 2 innings, and kind of put the pressure on them. They did answer back in the top of the third, which I knew they were going to score runs. They're a really good offense. But again, we just stayed the course, and in the 6th inning again, I think is when we came back and made our run. So just really, really pleased with our efforts in that first game.
Definitely. Anna hits the game-winning single in the bottom of the 6th just to take us away. And then Taylor Clemens with 11 shutout innings in both of those games combined. She's just been there all year.
Yeah, and I think you can't say, I mean, Ivy did a nice job to keep us in it, but we made the change when we thought it was necessary after, I think, 4 innings. But TP came in and did what TP is capable of, and that is kept him off balance with that changeup, hit her spots, and just worked really, really efficiently.
Definitely, and you came out and hit the ball. Like about 4 Pioneers each had 2 hits and 2 RBIs, so it's always a credit to hitting and getting outs.
Yeah.
And then we have Young Harris, who we stayed with them in the first game. It came down to the wire, but they just kind of pulled it out in the end.
Yeah, and that's a game I walk away from. In my mind, we should have won that game. It was a 2-1 ball game. We made 3 mistakes that cannot happen. So until we, again, clean up the defensive side and not give people free passes and kind of just say, here you go, that's the way it's going to go. So when we play solid defense, we win. When we make small mental mistakes, it comes back to bite us. So I was pleased with our pitching performance that day. And I thought we had some good at-bats against a really talented pitcher. But, again, take away some of those miscues on defense, we win that game probably 1-0.
Definitely. And then the second game, it kind of just feels like the bottom kind of fell out.
It did. And it was a tough one. But, again, it's something that you've got to learn from and recover from and figure it out.
That's how the game goes.
Yeah.
And then Carson Newman just going over the hill is – That was really a tough one. It was ending the first one 6-3. Like it seemed like we always hit the ball, we just couldn't score.
Yeah, and the girl that threw the first game, credit to her, she was really, really good. She kept us off balance with just working in and out, had a decent speed, really hit her spots. But I thought we went out, hit a leadoff triple in the first inning, and I think again against these conference opponents, you've got to score that run in that first inning to kind of set a tone. And unfortunately, we stranded her. And I think we had some other opportunities. We just did not get key hits when we needed to and didn't have some good at-bats. Now, looking to the 7th inning of that game, we came out and had hit after hit after hit and put up 3 runs and unfortunately hit into an unlucky double play. But I was confident in that 6th inning that we had kind of gotten some confidence at the plate. But again, I go back and we lose that ball game because we make mistakes on defense.
Definitely. And it's always, y'all always looking at yourself and trying to make sure that y'all have yourselves right.
Yeah.
Because that's the game of softball.
It is. It's a game of inches. And again, against a team like that, you make one mistake, they're going to make you pay.
Definitely. And then the second game is just kind of like we got hits. Like
we did. And Rhinus is a really good pitcher. She's been an All-American for 2 years. I thought we had really good at-bats against her and had a nice approach. But where the deficit was, it's very, very hard as an offense to kind of make up that gap. So I just told him after the games, until we clean up some things and not repeat the same mistakes, we're just beating ourselves at this point. So refocusing, and again, I know they're capable. They showed that on Saturday. They've showed it other times in the year. When we come focused on the mound, play clean defense, and get timely hitting, we can compete with anybody.
Definitely, always a mental and having to make yourself right.
For sure.
First part of the Pioneer Softball Show with head coach Julie Huebner. When we come back, we will look at the next week.
We are in Granger County, Tennessee, here at Pierce Farms, and the Pierce family has been working with Ingalls for over 30 years. It means a great deal supplying produce as a local farmer. It really touches base knowing that we're just simple people just trying to help, and we love what we do, and Ingalls is a huge part of helping us do it. Farming is who we are, and it's in our blood. God has really blessed us with the sun and the soil to grow the best tomatoes you'll find anywhere. I believe it's really in the soil. So if you're in Granger County and you farm tomatoes, then you're in. Just a great blessing on us to actually farm and be able to farm and to supply tomatoes to people. And Ingalls really cares about family farms like Pierce Farms, and they really care about their customers. We're just glad to be a part of that. God has blessed us with a really great partnership there. They make fresh local produce have real meaning for lots of people. I'm Shane Pierce, and this is my Ingalls story.
Welcome back to the Pioneer Softball Show with head coach Julie Huebner. Going into this week, you have Queens on the road, then you have Limestone on that Sunday at home. How do you get your team refocused after those last couple series?
Again, I think it comes back to just having a really good focused practice today. We're going to hit all aspects, obviously pitching, hitting, and defense, and I think putting them in some different situations just to mentally prepare them for what they're going to face on Saturday against Queens. And Queens is a tough opponent. They're really, really scrappy. They play well at home. So again, we have got to go on the road and figure out how to keep it as simple as it needs to be. You're just playing on another field. It's that easy.
Definitely. It's just playing softball.
It's just playing softball.
And then you have Limestone, who's usually one of the top teams in the Conference Carolinas, but they're having a down year record-wise, but still have some good players in that
And it's
team.
still going to be a challenge. Record, wherever it says they are, they've always been good year in and year out. So I know that will be a battle. But again, I think another 2 good games just to kind of see where we're at with things and prepare us for the following week with the competition that we're going to face with LMU and Coker.
Definitely. And LMU ranked 18th, but that doesn't really matter so much. It's always just about playing against the team.
Exactly. And we know they're going to hit, so we're going to have to score runs. But again, if we show up and we do our thing, we can beat anybody.
Exactly. So in your experience as a head coach, when you have these kind of 4-game, 6-game skids where it's not always going your way, how do you get your team refocused? Like, I know you said the motivational speeches and the mentally focused practices, but is there any kind of tricks, or is it just going back to the basics?
It's going back to the basics and just playing fundamental softball, and that's what we continue to work on at practice, not having this crazy practice plan, but it's, again, simple catching and throwing, fielding routine ground balls, pitchers working, ahead in the count, working spots, hitters being aggressive at the plate. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's keeping it really simple. But I think the focus piece is the biggest thing that has to be every single pitch of every single game that you play and making the most of the opportunities that you get.
Definitely say softball is mostly mental, only 10%.
100%. It's a mental game.
Definitely. That's head coach Julie Huebner, PJ Green here. Thank you for watching the Pioneer Softball Show. For everyone behind the scenes, Nick Forsberg, Dom Donnelly, Jim Miller, thank you. And as always, roll, Nears, roll.